welcoming all our viewers on SATV's special edition International Affairs Live, broadcasting from Dhaka's Gulshan studio. Ladies and gentlemen, before I begin the discussion for today, I want to introduce all my panelists in the studio and across Zoom. To my left, we have retired Brigadier General Mohammad Khaliquzaman.
Thank you.
I welcome you to the program.
Thank you,
and
sir.
of course,
Thank
this
you.
is your first time, as I understand it. And of course, right next to him is Ahmed Alvi, who joins us today as a commentator. He'll be commentating on the issues that pertain to this world. And of course, we have SATV's geopolitical correspondent, Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes, joining us from Washington, D.C. Today, I want to begin with Norman Floyd Barnes. I know that U.S. President Donald Trump had signed the bill that has allowed the government to release, or the Department of Justice to release, all there is regarding Jeffrey Edward Epstein, numerous accounts of sex violations that he has done over his career and has caused a reputational crisis for United States of America. I want a very short comment regarding this and how Norman Floyd Barnes feel about this issue.
Good morning from Washington, D.C. Yes, the president has signed the bill to release the Jeffrey Epstein's files, records, tapes, email. With that comes a redacted, he has approved for the Justice Department to redact information regarding the Republicans' involvement in this scandal. And the document itself is scheduled to be released within the next 30 days.
Of course, I understand this is a very interesting time regarding this issue in the United States. But there is more that I want to bring into the discussion. I will also start once again with Norman Floyd Barnes. We know that the winter has approached and the Russia-Ukraine war is continuing. A massive overnight Russian drone and missile barrage hit the western Ukrainian city of Ternopil, killing at least 25 people, including 3 children. My question to Norman Floyd Barnes: I know that Volodymyr Zelensky, leader of Ukraine, is once again reigniting the talks in Istanbul to agree to the ceasefire terms negotiated between the two sides. How do you see this, as the war has been prolonging for many, many months? Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes.
Yes, as we speak, the U.S. administration is speaking with the Russians, and the president has, President Trump has agreed to a peace plan presented to the Russians. However, the Ukrainians has not been involved in this process. So there's a plan in place yet to be viewed or approved by the Ukrainians to end this conflict. So we're waiting to see the details of that, how it's going to be received by Ukraine. And it appears there will be some concessions that has to be made by Ukraine and also Russia in order for this ceasefire to go into effect. But right now there's conversations as we speak about ending this long war.
Thank you, Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes. I want to come to the studio to retired Brigadier General Mohammad Khaliquzaman.
Yes, sir.
As you were hearing Norman Floyd Barnes giving the update regarding the Russia-Ukraine war, today the Centric and the international news agencies are all talking about how Russia is creating a provocative environment in not only in Europe but in UK international waters. I'll come back to that later, but my question to you, sir, it would be, this war has prolonged for so long, almost 3 years and a half. It has made sure that other border disputes around the world may begin because of Russia invading Ukraine. And right now, almost 35% of eastern Ukraine is under the control of the Russian military. I know that you have background regarding military understanding between two different zones. I want to understand how you feel about Ukraine and Russia.
Thank you, Mr. Pantubhai. First of all, thanks to all the audience here. Okay, the Russian-Ukraine war is not only a war, and when the war started, actually it was not assumed that the war will be so prolonged. It is almost 1365 days, almost 3.5 years, the war is continuing, and the dynamics of this war, it is not limited in the military maneuver only now. It has been diversified. The dynamics of the war is something like attrition of the industrial areas, attrition of the civilian populations, and as you said, the 35% of the Ukrainian boundary has been captured or under control of the military, and the most importantly, the Tarnopoli, right?
Yes.
Tarnopoli has been attacked, where the civilian population had been there, which is very, very dangerous, and which is very human rights violation. And if the war is continuing for the future days, the nation itself, not only Russia and Ukraine, rather the world is going to really face a very, very big problem. And at this point of time, since the war has been prolonged so much, which was not actually assumed when it started, that it will be continuing for so many days or so many years. So it's the time for the international forum to really come forward and do something. Civilian populations are dying, lot of industries are going off, lot of people are going to be unemployed. So this is actually not expected, and the whole world is suffering. You know, the Europeans are suffering, the Asians have started suffering, and it's the time for the superpower like United States of America to come forward and really with a good motive, with a good niyat, they have to address it with the G20 and others, where they did not actually participate, which is very really unfortunate for the nation as well.
I will definitely come regarding the G20 later in the program. That was a brilliant observation by you, sir.
Thank you.
But I want to come to Ahmed Alvi. I know you were hearing both Norman Flood Barnes and of course Mohammad Khaliquzaman in the studio. I want to ask you an important question. You see, Russia has exports of its natural gas towards all of these European economies, Finland, Slovakia, Slovenia, all of these nations depended usually on Russian oil and Russian energy for the cooling systems or the heating systems in this regard. But this time around, the Nord Stream pipeline, a pipeline which connects Russia towards Germany and for the export of these resources to keep these countries warm, it has been blown up earlier before in this fight. My question to you, Europe seems to be in a haphazard situation. America seems to be pulling closer towards the Russian idea. And not only so, in August, we've seen Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin meeting in Alaska. All of this creates a new hype regarding the fact that where will Europe now find their natural resources for their heating systems during this winter?
Yes, thank you for the question. So we need to understand first how Europe used to get their main natural resources of their energy was from Russia, and now and mainly because it was also their closest border. Getting such energy from elsewhere, such as Saudi Arabia or United States, will be much costlier. However, whenever you think of the humanitarian atrocities that they committed, even though they might have to pay a higher price for energy, they should, in order to weaken Russia, for the way, because they finance the war through their energy. And if you take away that supply, if you take away the buyers, then slowly the military advancement, which has been financed by energy, well, that will erode slowly. At least that is what the plan is. Now, I understand the daily life for a civilian who lives in all the Eastern European countries and Germany. Life will get a bit tougher. Their bills, the energy bills will definitely go higher. However, it's a price we must pay, or they must pay, in order to stop these atrocities that are happening in Ukraine.
Thanking Ahmed Alvi for his comment regarding this issue. But Russia seems to be on the radar for international news media as of 20th November, which is today. I want to come to Norman Flood Barnes. I know that a Russian intelligence gathering vessel has been monitored just outside the UK territorial waters. British Defense Secretary John Healey said, warning Moscow that Britain is ready for any further escalation. This happened when the vessel had pointed lasers towards the British Air Force, the Royal Air Force of the United Kingdom, and this prompted Downing Street to release this statement. I want to understand how you view this, as we've always narrated the fact that it is not a war against Ukraine and Russia, it is a war between Europe and Russia as a whole. I want to understand, how do you see these latest provocations? Norman Floyd Barnes.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. These latest provocations appear to be a pattern for Europe. We mentioned earlier Poland, Norway, Sweden, the whole area of being receiving drones. This latest act is another opportunity for Russia to basically to probe and to let Europe know that we're still here, and we have a ambition of basically having some type of impact on your daily life and how things are going, and we still want to take over the providence of Ukraine, and our overall long-term mission is Europe. So we're just letting you know that we're still around, and no real action, just letting you know that we have impact on your daily life.
Thank you, Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes, joining from Washington, D.C. I want to ask a last question to General MD Khaliduzzaman in the studio. You know, Turkey is a nation that is a crossroads of the world. Half of it merges with Europe, and other half merges with Asia of the Silk Road. So it's one of those countries that have importance in both sides of geopolitics. And this time around, it's Ukraine and Russia, and how Turkey played a massive role in order for the two prisoner swaps that both sides had. Of course, the talk had faltered, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed hope that Kiev and Moscow, the two capital cities, could restart prisoner swaps by the end of this year, stressing that Turkey plays a crucial role to this mediation to stop this war. My question to you would be, other players, other regional players are now acting out as they understand that this war could now spiral into a global situation, which every nation is trying to avoid. What are some of the implications of this war spewing out, and what are the roles of the mediating countries such as Turkey in this issue of Ukraine and Russia?
You see that, thank you very much for the question. Turkey, half of the Turkey belongs to Europe, half of the Asia. And the role that he had, the meditation, and they actually, I should say that they are more inclined to Europe than that of Asia. And this war basically has got a prolonged, I should say, that has got impact, not only the military maneuver or something, it has got a prolonged impact on the industry aspects, on the civilian population that has really happened few days back. So my understanding is that everyone is understanding the global leadership, where there is a doubt of their mutual unitedness or unity of the global leadership, and knowing fully well the advancing forward for actually addressing the whole issue, I find, to my understanding, if you ask my opinion, is totally absent. And if the global leadership, they want, there is a fracture of the leadership in the global leadership to stop the war, or the further planning, a depth planning, a very long-term planning is very important here, because we found the short-term planning to stop the war, because there are a lot of conversations beforehand, but it didn't work actually. So the global leadership has got a big role here to actually capture the situation and to address, so that there is nothing happening, because you know this is happening, it will actually affect everyone. It's such a big war that has actually prolonged for a long time, is affecting the whole world, directly, indirectly, Even the Bangladesh has also been affected, you know.
The oil prices have
All
surged.
prices, you know. So you have to understand that if the global power, if the global authorities, they don't agree upon, the poor countries like us will be affected. So I find, to my understanding, to personal opinion, the global leadership has a big role here, especially the United States of America and the UK as well, because as you said, that the UK based natural gas was basically used to come from the Russia. So they have also big role. I don't know what actually they want and what the summary, what the gist they want to actually illustrate from here and for their advantage. And what is the dynamics here is very difficult to understand. It's my personal opinion, actually, you can say, sir.
Thanking you so much for your opinion regarding my question. I want to get a very short comment from Ahmed Alvi. As you were hearing both our panelists here, how do you think this will go against in the future days? Just a very short comment. Do you think that America will succeed in stopping Russia's aggression into Ukraine and to the whole of the NATO countries?
I think America is trying their best when it comes to pushing their plan into, and which would include maybe giving up certain territories. However, the Ukrainian officials and Zelensky hasn't agreed to it, or they might not even know of it. So until Ukrainian officials and Zelensky play a proper role into the ceasefire, everything will go as it is going right now. I don't see any changes until Zelensky and his Ukrainian officials and his cabinet, they come together and they pursue peace talks with Russia.
Of course, the leader of Ukraine must understand that it's the year 2025, and of course, they are the underdog in this fight, as you were asserting. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, a production team is telling me that we need to go for a short commercial break. Do stay with us as we have much more updates for today.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো 80টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to International Affairs. Today I'm joined by retired Brigadier General Muhammad Khaliduzzaman and of course Ahmed Alvi as commentator, who are both in the studio, as well as Norman Floyd Barnes, our geopolitical correspondent in Washington, D.C. I want to begin with Norman. I understand the G20 this year is being held in South Africa with the theme of solidarity, equality and sustainability. However, this year a major world player like the United States of America has declared, saying that they will not be joining in this summit that is happening later in this month. I want to understand from Norman Floyd Barnes' perspective, not joining in such a meeting is definitely leaving the United States out of such importance of global issues. I want to understand why such a decision had been made by US President Donald Trump. Norman Floyd Barnes.
Yes, thank you. The issue with the Trump administration is that they are not aligned with the administration and the government of South Africa. There's human rights issues. There's issue about how we are relating to them, how we are going to work for them in the future. And right now, the president do not believe it is to our best interest to engage into a event in South Africa, supporting South Africa, and involving our relationship with them. So it appears that there may be some information coming out about our actually official relationship with South Africa in the upcoming weeks. But right now, the G20 is not something that the president wished to engage in.
Thank you, Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes. I want to give our viewers as well as those in the panel the background regarding not wanting to be a part of the Johannesburg-led summit, the G20 summit, which of course is a summit for Premier Forum for International Economic Cooperation. Earlier on this year, Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, had visited Donald Trump in the White House. In some point of the talks faltered because Donald Trump had played a clip of how in his government the whites inside South Africa were being discriminated upon. If you look back at history, that's exactly what the apartheid used to belong to. But this time around, Donald Trump claims that there is white genocide happening in South Africa out of all other nations. But coming back to the G20 and how the US is moving out of such institutions is going to be rough waters in the coming days. I want to ask retired Brigadier General Mohammad Khaliquzzaman. You've been hearing Norman Floyd Barnes and as well as me giving you the background. US is moving away from institutions like UNESCO out of all and also the World Health Organization. This move shifts indicate a very tough time for United States. I know that the coronavirus pandemic has not been so far on. It's only been 5 years and the next pandemic could prompt the need for such institutions for the betterment of the people. My question to you, sir, why do you think United States is moving away? Do you think that they're creating harder times for upcoming US presidents as well?
Thank you very much for the question. It was really, it surely shocked the international leadership regarding the absence of the United States president in the Johannesburg, which actually the G20 summit. It was unexpected. Actually, this signal carries some symbols. If you talk about the symbol, what are the symbols? I should say, to my understanding, that fractures in the global leadership. Fractures in the global leadership. And the doubt, there's a doubt rages in the unity of the G20, and also a critical moment for the global leadership. And this actually happens when the Russian-Ukraine war is on the way. So actually now we have to understand, as you said, that just after the corona, the United States directions or the guideline from the Trump administration is to away from such UN agencies, which actually is a very critical aspect for the whole world, because as you know, the United States of America is the major contributor, and too much of nationalism of Trump, my understanding, I'm sorry, that too much of nationalism that he is not bothering actually, because United States actually don't bother what the UN is doing. And because I had been in the United States and I found that UN is an organization which most of the United States citizens are not very much aware. So they actually don't bother what the UNESCO, FAO or what other international organizations are doing about it. But the point remains, these matters, these affects us, countries like us, these affects. So the moving away from the track of the UNESCO, Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO and other international organizations from this by the Trump administration is really concern for the other countries like Bangladesh, even the countries more developed than Bangladesh. So I think there is a requirement of understanding of the other global leadership to talk with the United States administration and do something for the world, because when you become rich, you have some responsibility for the poor people as well. And from that perspective, United States has got certain role for the other countries of the world, and they can't deny it actually, So this is my understanding.
Thank you, Mohammad Khalikuzaman. Of course, I picked out what you were saying, fractures in global leadership. I took out 4 words of your comment, and that's what my next question is to be to Ahmed Alvi. Of course, when United States move away, the Chinese fulfill. That is how the entire geopolitical arena has been shaped as of today. I want to ask you a question. Of course, we know that Donald Trump has his rhetorics and stories about how he does not believe in climate change, how he does not have a fondness of understanding both left and the right spectrum of political maneuvering. But my question would be relating back to China. I want to ask you, do you think that fractures in this global leadership is going to cause a world war-like situation now that almost every nation is now looking towards to raise their defense military spending? You see Japan, a nation that we know is a pacifist nation, peace-loving nation, has increased their military spending. And I will come to the Japan-China issue, but I want to remain at the fractures in global leadership issue that I've brought on. How do you see this coming about?
Rather than, I would say we might end up on another phase of the Cold War, but on a global scale. Right now, almost every superpower has nuclear weapons, and well, I don't think anyone actually plans to exercise them anytime soon, but it will keep tensions heightened, and it will also fracture trade in many senses, which will also impact the lives of the daily citizens, which ultimately will get most of the bad forms of it. I would like to say China is taking a major role into the global leadership, and they're actually into helping other countries in various forms, such as loaning money to build the infrastructure of other countries. And I don't think Trump completely understands the consequences of pulling out of the organizations such as the UNESCO's, the WTO's, and I don't think he understands how he's eroding the US superpower, that is the global superpower, and he's single-handedly handicapping USA in the global atmosphere, in the global frame of.
Yes.
So I would like to say Trump is being quite ignorant in the stance of where the United States should have a part when it comes to their global responsibility, and in order to offer foreign aids. But if they fail in this responsibility, China will take over, and that will actually have a more, they will actually surpass the United States in terms of the next global superpower.
Thanking Ahmed Alvi regarding his comment. I want to come to Norman Floyd Barnes, but before I do so, I want to give all our viewers an understanding on how the escalatory tensions between Japan and China are being faced. We know that last month Donald Trump had met Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the APEC summit held in Busan, South Korea. Of course, the two leaders did not discuss the sovereignty of Taiwan, and which, coming to latest news, we know that Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaishi has given comments which said any kind of retaliatory issues into Taiwan or questioning its sovereignty would be a direct escalatory issue for Japan. And what has going on is that there has been a seafood ban between the two nations, a travel warning between the two nations. It has caused almost 500,000 people cancelling their flights. So already there is some kind of economic impact that is harming both Japan and China. My question to Norman Floyd Barnes, I know that you've been understanding this event as it is happening. I want to understand how you see this, as Japan and South Korea, including Taiwan, all of these nations are of course US allies in the region. I want to understand what is the rhetoric here, as the world seems to be moving towards more escalation rather than towards a cessation of fighting. Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes.
Thank you for the question. My analysis is gearing towards more of a global Cold War. I suggest, or I am coming to terms that as we move on in the upcoming years, we will see a increase in Cold War activities. Uh, these activities are going to be globally. Japan, China, Taiwan, other parts of the world will be the major actors in this phenomenon. I mentioned the other day, South Asia is going to be another area where people and where these governments will act out this role. But we must understand that as the nations develop their nuclear and their military, I guess, armament, these techniques are just for leverage. I do not believe there will be any intention of any type of military action, but it basically gives them leverage, the countries leverage, say, hey, I have means, I have weapons, and you have to listen to me. But the Cold War exactly is what I feel is what's going to happen in the future, and we will see a lot more of these type of situations where we'll use trade, commerce. We have military, we have armies, we have ships, we have drones, we have the information that we have, and we could use against you. But we need to talk, we need to communicate, and there'll be a lot of more with artificial intelligence, the technology. There'll be issues with infrastructure, and as we're seeing issues with the telecommunications and the connectivities. We'll see a lot more of these type of situations to leverage, particularly with Taiwan being the center for this, with the semiconductors. So there'll be a lot of activities around communications and technology as we move forward, and basically who has it, who has not. That's the type of war we're looking at coming up in the future, and how the military probably will be used as leverage. If you don't answer or deal with me, I have a military option, but these are just options.
Of course, thanking Norman Floyd Barnes, I understand that this is soft power projection at play, and China and the United States are trying to understand where the allies countries are standing in Asia. Due to time constraints, I must have another question towards Norman Floyd Barnes. CNN reports that China says there is no market for Japanese seafood exports as this spat over Taiwan comment escalates. I understand that Japan is a premier in fishing, and one of those, it does fish its tuna all across the world, and that is world famous. I want to understand the economic impacts and the implications that it will have. Will it raise its prices across the world, especially that China is a huge market, and anyone that does not deal with China will often lose out on expectations. I want to have a last question regarding trade and economics and commerce between this latest issue between China and Japan. Mr. Norman Floyd Barnes.
Yes, in closing, China is using this tactic, is another tactic measure. We know China deals a lot with trade and commerce. We know they are big consumers of and producers of seafood. By using this, it's similar how the United States is using the tariffs. They are basically raising the prices. That will cause the price to raise for seafood. And Japan needs this economy to survive. So again, another Cold War tactic developing. Basically, we will use things against you to control you or get your attention.
Thanking Norman Floyd Barnes for his comment regarding the Japan-China issue and how there are trade, economics and commerce playing out. But before I go to the break, I want to have a short comment from Ahmed Alvi. You were hearing Norman Floyd Barnes talking about the recent Japan and China issue. What do you think? He also mentioned South Asia. He was referring to Bangladesh and the Indian subcontinent, as they still call it, an Indian subcontinent. But I wish that they had called it a Bengal subcontinent. Anyhow, I want to understand how you felt about this Japan-China happening right on our corridor.
Well, this actually plays a major effect to our economy, the subcontinent, especially because how we will favor if, as the Cold War, as Mr. Barnes has said, as the Cold War escalates, which side we will actually favor more. We know India and China has some tension between them.
They had last tensions way back in 2018 as well.
Yes. So now we'll see further, but also since they're not importing fish, they'll probably have to look elsewhere. And Bangladesh and India, and they can also play as a producer for some resources. So this might also indirectly maybe even affect us in a positive way. But we actually have to see the outcome before commenting further.
Thanking Mr. Ahmed Alvi for his comment regarding this issue. Ladies and gentlemen, production is instructing me to go for another short commercial break. But after the break, I have some interesting news regarding our region here in South Asia. Do stay with us as we head for a break.
Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand Club at Mirpur 10 Dhaka. Elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents. Play pool and snooker in international standard billiard zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to International Affairs. Today we are joined in the studio by retired Brigadier General Mohammad Khaliquzzaman, as well as Ahmed Alvi, who joins us as commentator. We've already heard Norman Floyd Barnes before the break, but now I want to discuss the issues that are important to South Asia. And when I mean South Asia, I am of course talking about regions such as Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, and of course the entirety of these nations, as it is quite so important. But first I want to come to the General in the studio. Sir, we know that on 17th November this year, it was international news media headlines, the verdict of ousted fugitive Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The question here remains that right now, our foreign advisor is Khalilur Rahman, as far as I know. He is meeting Ajit Doval of India, the NSA. The two NSAs are meeting in India regarding this heightened tensions. We've seen the Indian media trying to attack us on so many fronts over the last 1.5 years. And there has been border push-ins from an Assam, a woman from Assam has been pushed in to Bangladesh, given that she has been born in Assam and raised in Assam. So all of this implies that we are in some dangerous waters with our neighbor India. And of course, they are using so many narratives to make sure that we do not have any kind of international stance. I know that you have experience in military doctrine. I want to understand how you felt about these latest issues.
Thank you very much, sir, for question. You know, to my understanding, we are surrounded by India, and if you talk about India, India is a big factor for us. There is no doubt in it. But India, we may have the friendship of India with India, but India is never a friend. We may have the friendship because they are big neighbor, but India is never a friend for us. Whatever has India done for Bangladesh, there was the interest of India. It's not that they have loved us, they have special affection for Bangladeshi people, and they have come forward to assist or help to Bangladeshis. If you have an idea, after the 5th August 2024, India has started different campaign in respect of psychologically and media. And the aim is to destabilize the existing government, present government. Because honestly speaking, yes, we are depending on India on different issues. But at the same time, they don't want that we become independent, you know, in respect of our products, in respect of our daily requirements of the general people. If we would have that capacity, then India has no use for us. And keeping those points in mind, India always thinks that if because India does not want that any neighbor in the South Asia become power. If someone wants to raise, they just cut it. Like if you talk about Sri Lanka,
as well as Maldives.
Nepal, as like Maldives. So I'm sorry that India is such a neighbor of everyone.
Their foreign policy includes cutting off their friends as well.
Exactly, and they don't want it. And India has no friend here actually. If you look that some of the countries have already understood that and they have gone a part of it. So from that perspective, we have to be also self-sufficient, independent, so that we don't depend upon or count on India. And the present government, the initial strategy, with the passage of time, things have there is some problem. The government is not getting that much of cooperation. I'm not going on that point, but the present strategy of the government was to make self-sufficient and independent, so that we don't depend on the India. So that actually made them, mad. So they started different campaign, an unnecessary campaign, which is totally false and not actually true. And our strategy should be to guard against those false campaign, so the people are aware what India is doing for their interest, not for Bangladesh people.
When the verdict was shown on live TV, I was here in this very studio, and from what I understood, that it was a moment of celebration for those who have been affected in last July's genocide. I would call it a genocide that had happened. Of course, it did not come up to the amounts of the Israel genocide we see, but it was still 1,400 souls that have been wiped forever because of political reasons and political understanding. You see the role of Indian media, and some of the Indians have now started voicing that what do we have to do with an ousted government officials? Why are we hosting them? Even common Indians are coming out and saying that the leader of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has gone completely crazy in protecting another ousted leader of the other country. So Indians are now starting voicing out, especially given North and South Indians have cultural differences in understanding of running of their country. I want to come to Ahmed Alvi. I know that you've been observing this situation ever since August 5th, and the popular verdict had given a sentence of death to the ousted fugitive leader. I want you to comment on how you felt about Indian media giving the space to those who have committed heinous crimes last July, when we were all stuck at home. We could not go out. We only had 2 hours every day to take a step outside of the house. We could not leave as far as I knew, and of course the law enforcement agencies were too busy firing gunshots from helicopters to common civilians using lethal weapons. I want to understand, how do you see the neighbor acting? Is it attrition that they're using right now towards Bangladesh, or are they trying to discredit anything this government is now trying to do?
Mr. Brigadier General said, I actually do agree that they are trying to destabilize, I wouldn't say destabilize our government, but if they don't have control over it, they feel like they're losing power over us.
Exactly.
And I feel that they think, and the reason I believe that they're actually keeping these ousted leaders, I feel like they want people to slowly forget. about, because people do tend to forget with time.
True.
So, if they will forget, then maybe they can appoint Hasina back into our country once again, because clearly the only reason that they're keeping Hasina is for their own interest, nothing else. Because otherwise there wouldn't be any point into keeping an ousted leader and draining their resources on these certain individuals. Now, as you said, even the Indians themselves are quite mad at it, and it would be reasonable to think that they would extradite these certain criminals, I would say, to our country, so we can impose our law upon them, because justice has to prevail in these certain cases, and until India actually until India agrees to extradite these certain criminals, justice will go. It will go. There won't be any justice.
One can say justice hurried is justice buried. That was a caption that
Yes.
earlier on this weekend.
Justice delays, justice denies.
Yes.
Denied as well. So I want to have one last question to Brigadier General Mohammad Khaliquzzaman before we end the program.
Thank
My
you.
question to you, I know people are calling a referendum on February 15th as well as a national election. People are confused. How do you see the future prospect of Bangladesh? I mean, where are we going? What's the direction? Is there any uniform direction? I'm not sure. I want to have your last comments before I can conclude.
Thank you very much. It's my subject actually. I'm working on it. I don't know, as personal opinion, we should say in the online, on live here. To my understanding, if you ask me today personally, Brigadier Zaman, what do you think about the country's future? I'm not very much optimistic about that.
We are in some rough waters.
I'm in some rough waters.
Thanking
Because the last 54 years, since the independence of Bangladesh, what have you got anything confirmed from the leadership, political leadership? I'm talking specifically. Could they do something that you can depend upon, you can count on the political leadership? Honestly speaking. Then, in that case, since 91, when there was actually the democratic government came, the country should not have so much of difficulties in respect of democracy. We had problem in the 96, we have problem in 2007, we have problem for last 16, 17 years, then we have problem in 24. So why this has come? Who has asked for it? You and me? Our leaders. You talk about DGFI, you talk about NSI. What they do? They have just followed the government instructions.
of course.
So what we have to first understand the political leadership. We have to fix it honestly, because if the present government could not make them in the same platform, in spite of trying a lot of endeavor. So what will happen in February election, even after the election, what do you want to achieve of it? What will be the outcome after the election? You
People
have to
only
ask for
talk
the
about
outcome.
the election, but there is no outcome.
Election is one of the factors of the democracy. It is not the factor.
It is not the main factor.
It's not the factor or main factor. There are a lot of things of democracy.
Right.
We are the servant. The people of Bangladesh are not the owner of the nation. To my understanding, people of the Bangladesh are the servant of the leadership and the bureaucrats. I'm sorry to say, please excuse me for that, sir.
No, definitely
Even
ending.
it should be the opposite.
I'm sorry.
No,
Because
I really want to get this answer.
Do you get service? Do you get support in a police station as a normal citizen? Do you get support in anywhere in doctors?
These are grievances, national grievances,
Yes, national
grievances
grievances.
of people.
You talk about the fundamental rights in the constitution that you will get service support. Do you get that as a good citizen? As a poor people, someone gets that? Can you confirm me that he gets citizen support from the police station, from the doctors, from anywhere he goes? He does not.
The problem must be fixed in the top seat before
Exactly.
it can go down
It's
all the
we
way
said
down
in
the pyramid.
Islam, in Namal Amalu bin Niyat, the political leadership will have to be a consensus. You see, after the independence, the political leaders could not come to a consensus on any national interest, where the India could come in a consensus of the national interest.
Of course. This is
We
where
do not
are
have
lacking.
national interest. We have a political interest. We have individual interest. I'm sorry.
No, that was
Thank
lovely.
you.
I want to thank retired Brigadier General Mohammad Khaliquzzaman for his ending statements, and as well as Ahmed Alvi for joining us
Thank
in
you,
the
sir.
program.
Thank you so
Ladies
much
and
for having
gentlemen, as I draw closer, today is November 20th of 2025. It is celebrated as Universal Children's Day globally to promote children's rights and welfare. It's also known in many countries as Children's Day, also including Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, do stay with us, and I shall be back after the weekend on Sunday.